Hi and welcome back. It's Hannah from Blue Ferret Boarding, and as this is National Picnic Month, awesome, we are talking about ferret foods. And if you didn't get the message from last week's video, you must have had your ears closed. The main message of last week's video was that ferrets are obligate carnivores. I'll say it again, which means they can only eat meat and high protein content foods, and not all of those. So if you are wanting to feed your ferrets a raw diet, you want to be keeping away from anything processed. So anything like bacon or ham or sausages or burgers or anything that's been processed. What you're wanting is something like Morrison's Finest. I'm not getting paid, but thank you Morrison's anyway. Morrison's Finest pig heart. You can get kidney, heart, and all sorts of liver and all sorts of other things. You know, if you can get it, give it to them. This is perfect. It's raw, it's 100% meat. There's nothing processed about this at all. It is just heart, and you can't go wrong with it, you know. The same for, as I've said, kidney and liver, but because kidney and liver are organs that have a bit more richness because of their functions in the body, they are actually a bit richer, and you tend to not want to give them that all the time, or maybe, as you know, you mix it in constantly with other raw food. So heart is great because it's a muscle and it's really good muscle building stuff. So you might want to have like heart, a bit of raw chicken, and then some kidney or some liver put in there, and by all means feed them that every day, but don't be just feeding them just liver every day because that's pretty rich. So raw chicken, by all means, on the bone, off the bone, whatever the bone. Raw rabbit, raw bird of any type, really, as long as it's raw and as long as it's not processed, it's just the bird. You can go as far as not processing, as far as just putting a clean fresh bird in their cage if you want to, as long as you don't mind the mess. A bit of pork's fine, a bit of mince is fine, beef mince, if you want to, a bit of sirloin steak if you're really, you know, flush. None of my ferrets are particularly keen on sirloin steak, and some of my ferrets aren't actually that bothered by beef, so we tend to not bother with buying beef for them. We might have a little bit of mince in there. Prawns, raw or cooked, again, as long as they're not processed, they're not sort of from a sandwich that's got Mary Rose sauce on it or anything like that. You don't want that. Or prawns that have been in any sort of chili sauce, forget it. You know, we're talking like the raw deal, or cooked but nothing processed, nothing on them. So you can also give them, if you want, let me find this, you can give them a little bit of tuna. It has got mercury in, but the amount you'd have to feed them of tuna to actually affect the mercury levels, to affect them, is pretty hardcore. The most important thing, and more important to remember, is to make sure it's only in spring water. Really, you don't want it in brine. Certainly, because again, the salt levels are far too high for the amount they'd be eating. The amount of salt in that is far too high for a ferret. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't do the ones in oil either, just to be sure that they haven't put anything in it. But to be honest, you should be able to look and see, and if it is just 100% oil, you kind of should be okay, as long as it's something like sunflower oil, I believe. Another option is Nature's Menu natural raw mince. So this is just a block of raw mince. I've got this from the feed warehouse, but I know Durham, is it Durham Foods, I think it's called, or Durham Farm Foods, I think, do a lot of this stuff as well. They have it in a roll of a sausage, and it's meant for dog, but it's, as long as it's pretty much 100% raw meat, no grain in it at all. So some dog food will have grain in it, which is absolutely fine for dogs, but not for ferrets. So whenever you're looking at stuff for the first time, go to the back, check the composition, check what it's got in it. This kind of stuff is pretty good for them. So you can feed them this, 100% natural, contains minced bone. So that kind of stuff's fine for them. Just check on the back and make sure there's no grain in it. As I say, things that aren't, you know, particularly for ferrets, you can use for ferrets as long as they're raw, as long as they've got no grain in it. You can see where I'm going with this. Cooked meats, we will often cook off a bit of chicken. We'll cube the chicken and cook it up. We'll take it off the bone. So as I've mentioned before, do not give them anything with cooked bone on it, because that bone can be quite brittle, and it can break and stick in their gullet, and that can be quite painful. It can cause issues in their tummy, and just generally it's not a good thing for ferrets. So don't ever give them something with cooked bone on it. You know, give them that raw or take the bone out. So we will often just buy chicken fillet or you know, whatever it happens to be, boned thigh meat, and we'll chop it up into cubes, and then we'll fry it with a little bit of oil. We'll use something like a rapeseed oil, just a bog standard vegetable oil like rapeseed, which is fine for ferrets, and we'll often cook it up in that, and we'll give that to any ferret really, but it's a good bland food. So in terms of properly designed ferret foods, what are there? Well, there's quite a few on the market, and the ones we personally recommend are, it's got many names, but it's the same stuff. It's made by Gilbertson and Page, that some of you might recognise, do a lot of different types of pet food. And it's branded as Dr. John Merlin, and that's what makes it the ferret food. Dr. John's again has different brands, I think. I don't know how they balance it all down, but Dr. John's, I think, does other animal food as well. Gilbertson and Page, Dr. John's. But it's this Merlin is what you're looking for, and it's the Merlin that's the ferret food. And this is a specific ferret food. And what makes it specific is the blend of the ratio of protein to oil. So cat kibble also is protein and oil. Now, some of it will have cheese in, don't ask, I'm not sure why. And some of it has vegetables in. So do not ever feed your ferret with a cat kibble that has anything in it other than 100% animal food. 100%, animal derivative. And to be honest, I would never say to feed your ferret cat food unless it was a very, very high quality kitten food. This is Dr. John's though. It comes, if you can see, it's a kibble. It's specifically designed for ferrets, and you know Dr. John's because it's this slightly triangular shape, and they all have their different shapes which tell you what they are. So Dr. John's is this triangular shape, and this is what ours are fed on. They always have this in their bowl, and most of our boarders, unless there's reasons why they're not allowed to have Merlin, will always have a bowl of Merlin in their cage. We've currently got a boarder who has problems with her kidneys. She makes kidney stones, so she's not really allowed kibble in there. She's fed a completely raw diet to help keep those kidney stones at bay. And Merlin does have chicken in it, and some ferrets are allergic to chicken, so they have a turkey-based alternative. So another one that we are going to start stocking for you is this. It's Science Selective, and this is another really good one for ferrets. I'll be honest, I haven't checked this one. We're going to start stocking it soon, but I haven't been using it until now. This is actually a border, so I don't actually know if it's got turkey in it. I'd have to tell you. Yes, it has refined chicken. There is turkey in there, but there is still chicken in there, so if you've got a ferret allergic to chicken, you wouldn't be able to use Selective. You'd have to go and find a different one. So Selective and Merlin are two of the great big ones. There's also Vitalin, which is a good one, and Pets at Home do their own. I've had mixed reviews on the Pets at Home one, specific for ferrets, so I'd be interested in your thoughts, any of you who do use that. Now the Selective is little bones. So those are the kibble alternatives, and the reason you might give kibble is it lasts longer. You know, you can put it in the bowl, it can be there a day or two if it's still there from your ferrets, but it hasn't gone off, is my point. It hasn't dried up. It often has things in it that help with the ferret poo, and it means that the ferret poo isn't as smelly. It does, however, mean that it'll bulk up the ferret poo, so you'll probably find if you're moving your ferrets onto a kibble that the size of their poos increases because there's a lot more sort of roughage coming through. It's not a problem, it's fine for the ferret, but that's how it is, and it'll also be a lighter poo. That's kind of it for this video. Hopefully that's been of use. It's been talking really about the kind of meats that you can give your ferrets, a little bit about listing those and the goods and the bad things, and a little bit talking about specific ferret kibbles. We're going to carry on talking about that next week, and we're going to take a little bit further on some of those themes. So stay tuned, and I'll see you then.